After using the S24 Ultra for the last year or so, I've got my hands on the S25 Ultra and we're going to do some quick impressions. But before that, let's start with what's new about the S25 Ultra. Namaste, we're DHRME. Do horses really make Elmar? I'm first going to start with the hardware because in terms of hardware, the S25 Ultra as usual is packed. So it has the Snapdragon 8 Elite for Galaxy, similar to the version they had with the S24 last year. All models this time, including the S25 Plus and the S25, are getting 12 gigs of RAM. I think you need that for all the processing that's going to happen for all the AI stuff. Another upgrade on the S25 Ultra, which I think is very underrated, is that the vapor chamber is even more enhanced. So it is now 40% bigger. I don't know how Samsung is doing this because I mean, the phone is pretty much the same size, maybe a little bit thicker than the S24 Ultra. It's also rounded for an improved grip, as you can tell, than the S24 Ultra. So this is what I've been using for a year. And let me be very honest, people always complain about the S24 Ultra digging into their palms or whatever. I never hold it like this. Who holds their phone like this? It's so big, ended up holding it like this. So for me, that was not a big deal. But if that was a big deal to you, congratulations, now you have rounded corners. And you can see that the bezel around the screen is also reduced. This is the S24 Ultra and I must say that Samsung, one thing is kind of misleading is this is definitely lighter, the S25 Ultra. The S24 Ultra is certainly heavier, but I don't think it is thinner. It was kind of advertised to be thinner, but I think the S25 Ultra is a little bit thicker. Now, I'm not saying this is the end of the world. Definitely seems a little bit thicker. And a second thing you do notice is that these are significantly lighter. Even though this was also titanium, this is significantly lighter. Since it was light, one of the doubts I had was, are they going to compromise on things? The cameras are upgraded, we'll talk about that. And they have not compromised on the S Pen, at least the presence of an S Pen. Let's check. What I can't seem to do is like the air camera thing. So if you have a camera and you press the button, it doesn't seem to be able to take pictures. So I'm not quite sure what's going on there. On the battery tech, battery is still 5000 milliamp hours on the S25 Ultra, same as the S24 Ultra. However, I can imagine due to more kind of optimizations that the S25 Ultra will perform a little bit better than the S24 Ultra. So you do see a bit more information on battery on the S25 Ultra. You see things like battery cycle count, manufacture date and first use date, whereas you're not seeing those kind of things on the S24 Ultra. So interesting that Samsung has added that information in the settings as well. Now, in terms of screen, I think the S24 Ultra had a gorgeous screen. Let's go to the settings though and verify that for ourselves. So we have settings, display, and we have settings. Okay, we're going to put both on light and we're just going to compare. So this is S25, S24, motion smoothness. Let me make both of them adaptive. There is no extra brightness enabled as far as I can see, but this is definitely brighter. Then you have the eye comfort shield, adaptive color tone, screen mode, maybe this is vivid, that could be a thing. This is natural, but no, both are still, there's significant difference in brightness. The font style, the resolution is both same, FHD+. There are no real settings here. I've turned off edge panels on mine. There's a navigation bar, accidental touch this thing, shows charging information, screensaver. So the settings seem to be exactly the same, but there is, where is 120? So both are exactly 120 Hertz. And yeah, there's nothing new in that sense, but the panel is definitely brighter on the S25 Ultra that I have here. Really the big story from Samsung here is about AI, and I'll go through briefly their sales pitch, but also give you my take on it. So some notes I have here is the AI that they're proposing there's a couple of things that's the same as before, and that's like circle to search. So if you hit this down, you get the whole circle to search thing. We've seen this before, not just in Samsung phones, but also in other phones. Another thing they're talking about is conversational AI. So a lot of natural language processing. So for example, in the gallery app, you now have this, and I say, photos of people. Yeah, so you can do stuff like that. You get conversational search. Again, I don't think that's necessarily a big deal. It's nice to have. I really like a couple of things. One is called AI Select. So I'm in the Samsung Gallery app and there's an option called AI Select. I can select by swiping up to get the bar. I press this and there it goes. It's gonna look at what's on screen and I'm gonna just select my face. And the difference between AI Select and Circle to Search is AI Select is supposed to be more fun and entertainment kind of stuff. So I can do a generative edit of myself. Say I move it sideways so it'll fill in the corner and maybe it'll fill up the missing parts. Yeah, so you see the background is kind of filled in. So I think you can do stuff like that. You can make GIFs. That's what they told us. So the AI Select is kind of more of a fun thing. The really interesting thing that I'm interested in is cross-app actions. So essentially what you can now do is you can use AI agents, and AI agents are basically things that do stuff on your behalf. So for example, I could say something like, find vegan restaurants in the neighborhood and send a message to the number 121. Okay, that doesn't work. Can you look for the match schedule of the Indian cricket team and add the next match to my calendar? That's not working either. So how cross-app actions works is basically I can do a Google search, say of my favorite sports team, and I put the next game that they have in my calendar. So those are two separate actions, right? Searching and adding to calendar. So there is interaction between those two apps. Or I could look for a certain restaurant and message somebody I know about that restaurant. Those are the examples that kind of came up in the presentation, but I can think of far more things. So things like actually making reservations, so looking for a restaurant, making reservations. So that whole, rabbit model where AI is actually acting like your concierge. I think we are far from that. And the main reason for that is not all apps work with this cross-app action stuff. So all the Google apps work with it. There are some Samsung apps that work with it. So calendar, notes, clock, the phone. So you can do actions with these apps. And there are some third-party apps that work with it. And at least here in the Netherlands, they told us it's Spotify and WhatsApp. So these are two pretty important apps for me, at least living here. So that's good to see. Like for example, I could search something on Google Maps, maybe your traffic information, and I can send that message as WhatsApp to somebody I know. So it's very easy to do it with just one voice command. In addition, there are these personalized AI things, which personally I'm not too crazy about. But for example, you have a brief. So here you can see there's a midday brief because afternoon right now. And what it does is it gives you kind of an overview of your day. So what you're seeing here is the weather. So, but based on your activity, it's going to learn what you do, where you go, and try to give you more, up-to-date notifications. Samsung told us that this is a local model, more or less, on device, and it's a Samsung model. It's not using Google's AI model for this. And it will change depending on your time of day. So in the morning, you get a morning brief of what kind of, calendar activities you have. In the evening, you might get a summary of your day. Hey, you did this and that day. You want to switch off the lights using smart things like that, and maybe activities for the next day. There's also a now bar, and this is as far away from dynamic island as a name can get, but it is kind of the same idea. There's some dynamic data there, your flights and a match that's going on or things like that. And it's on the lock screen only, and I believe it can also be a widget. In terms of privacy, Samsung told us there's a lot of stuff that happens on device, and there's also a setting in the apps that I just noticed. You could actually use it to process data only on device, so it never leaves your device and goes to the cloud. So that's nice that Samsung's doing that. I think then you get limited functionality, of course. Oh, another interesting AI feature, you can ask it in the settings to change text size or brightness, and you don't have to dig through the menus. It'll throw up the right option right away. And then you have transcribing and summarizing of calls. You can listen to web page summaries in case you can't read very well, or you have a disability preventing you from that. You have writing assist, of course the photo editor stuff. So there's quite a bit of AI here. Some of it useful, some of it not. And of course, it comes with one UI 7 out of the box, and you have a bunch of things here. You can change your folder size. You have the Now bar, which is part of One UI 7, so ideally should be coming to older phones as well. You have grouping of alarms, which is kind of cool. You can put a few alarms together, which I always have a problem with the 1,000 alarms in my phone. There's a smooth zoom slider added for videos. You can seamlessly zoom in and out while recording with the smooth zoom slider. There's also save exposure settings for each mode. So even if you switch to a new mode and come back, the exposure settings are there. Then there's expert editing options with log video. If you're a content creator or just somebody who likes to, play around with video, this is a nice one to have. And there's a bunch of other things like that. You can do collages, auto trim videos. There's a bunch of features in One UI 7 that let you access that. And then we move on to the cameras. In terms of specs, there is definitely a change. There's a new 50 megapixel ultra wide camera because the older one was 12 megapixels. So that is gonna definitely improve ultra wide shots. Well, it should improve ultra wide shots, otherwise Samsung won't put a new sensor in there. So let's see how that comes up. Other than that, there's a 200 megapixel wide like last time. There's a 50 megapixel tele, and Samsung promises better macro shots, 4 times more details in the macro shots, they say. We'll have to test that claim for ourselves. And Samsung's wonderful portmanteau, nightography, continues, and now we have nightography video. Now, irrespective of how you like the term or not, they do claim that video in low light is much more improved with more noise reduction and things like that. Also 10-bit HDR for those of you who find that important. There is also audio eraser, which I'm really curious to try out as an audio channel on DHRME, because it can remove different types of noise. You can select and you can kind of tune them out. So I'm really curious to see how that works. I think these are all Samsung models as far as I can see. We were not allowed to take any camera samples, guys, because this is still like not production software. So obviously Samsung's being extra careful on that. But stay subscribed for the full review, because we are going to do our best to put the new S25 Ultra camera through its paces, and let us know in the comments with what would you like this camera compared. Should we compare it with an older phone? Should we compare it with the S24 Ultra, or just a completely different model? Let us know your thoughts. Now the S25 Ultra starts at a whopping 1,449 euros here. The base model of the S25 Ultra has 256 gigs of storage. All S25 models have 12 gigs of RAM, so that is now standard across the board, whether it's the smallest S25 or the S25 Plus. And the prices go up from 1449 to 1569 to 1809 for the 1 terabyte model. So those are the prices. We are really keen to put this through its paces. I really like the design. I think Samsung has done very well on the hardware front. Performance is something we have to test, especially the cameras, because that can be more variable. I'm sure that the processor, hopefully with the new vapor cooling chamber, is gonna be much better than the S24 Ultra. So that was our first look at the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra. Let us know if you have any more thoughts, comments, anything you wanted to see tested. So guys, we did get access to these phones at a Samsung launch event, but we haven't got any review samples or anything. So thanks to Samsung for that, but a bigger thanks to all of you guys and our wonderful patrons and members. Kevin, you want to tell them who they are?
Thanks to you guys, our subscribers, but an even bigger thanks to our patrons and members who support us financially. We have 4 tiers, so if you guys want to get in on the action, check out the link in the description. 4 tiers, like I said, you got Popsicle, Icicle, and these lovely tested folks. And our very special thanks goes out to our Fuckman tier, the highest tier. So a big thanks to Rachel, Gamma Panda, and Paula. Thank you guys extra much.
You've been left unimpressed with the impressions, and we've been DHRME. Dewey.